In a quiet neighborhood of Portland, Oregon, 34-year-old Laura had been married to her husband, Kevin, for 8 years. They had a 6-year-old son named Ethan and a 4-year-old daughter named Lily. Laura worked as a graphic designer from home, allowing her to manage both her career and family responsibilities. Kevin was employed as a project manager at a local construction firm, often working long hours to provide for the family. Their marriage appeared stable, with both partners committed to their shared life and children. Their Tudor-style home on Maple Street was the envy of the neighborhood, perfect family photos adorning the walls, weekend barbecues in the summer, and matching Christmas sweaters every December. Laura had designed their living space herself, creating a warm sanctuary where their children could grow surrounded by love and stability. Kevin had always been attentive, bringing home flowers on random Tuesdays and planning surprise weekend getaways to the Oregon coast. The first signs were subtle. Kevin began checking his phone more frequently during family dinners, his smile not quite reaching his eyes when Laura told stories about the children's daily adventures. He started taking phone calls in the backyard, his voice lowered to a murmur that Laura couldn't quite make out from the kitchen window. When she asked, he'd mention work stress, a difficult client, or budget problems on his current project. Richardson Construction is expanding, he explained one evening after missing Ethan's soccer game. The hours are crazy right now, but it's temporary. The promotion will be worth it. Laura believed him. She had always trusted Kevin implicitly, their relationship built on years of honesty and mutual respect. She sent him encouraging texts during the day and prepared his favorite meals when he came home late, exhausted and distant. "You seem different lately," Laura ventured one night as they prepared for bed. "Is everything okay?" Kevin kissed her forehead. "Just tired, babe. This new development project is killing me." But the late nights increased. The weekend work became routine. His cologne changed subtly, and Laura noticed unfamiliar receipts in his wallet, a downtown restaurant she'd never heard of, a bar in a neighborhood where Kevin's company had no projects. One rainy Thursday afternoon while folding laundry, Laura found a long blonde hair on Kevin's dress shirt. She twirled it between her fingers, a cold sensation spreading through her chest. Kevin had always worked with predominantly male construction crews. His direct supervisor was a balding man in his 60s. Probably from the dry cleaner, she told herself, but tucked the hair into her jewelry box anyway. That weekend, Kevin announced he needed to go into the office again. Laura smiled and nodded, but after he left, she logged into their shared cell phone account. The call logs showed dozens of texts and calls to a number she didn't recognize, all during hours when Kevin claimed to be working late. For 3 weeks, Laura maintained normalcy while gathering information. She noticed Kevin had started keeping his phone face down. He changed his password. Once, she caught him deleting messages when she walked into the room unexpectedly. One evening, while Kevin was in the shower, his phone buzzed repeatedly on the nightstand. Curiosity got the better of Laura, and she glanced at the screen. A series of messages from a contact named Samantha caught her attention. The messages were flirtatious and hinted at a deeper, more intimate relationship. Feeling a surge of anxiety and disbelief, Laura decided to investigate further. Kevin had left his laptop open on the desk. With trembling fingers, Laura opened his email. There, in his work account, were hundreds of exchanges with Samantha Peters, the new project coordinator at Richardson Construction. The emails started professionally 6 months ago but gradually became personal, then intimate. Weekend work conferences that never existed. Late meetings that were actually dinners and hotel rooms. Accessing Kevin's phone, she discovered an extensive exchange of messages and photos spanning several months. The conversations revealed a romantic and physical relationship between Kevin and Samantha, who was clearly identified as a colleague from his workplace. What struck Laura most wasn't just the physical betrayal but the emotional intimacy. Kevin had told Samantha things about their marriage, complaints and frustrations he'd never shared with Laura directly. "Laura's always busy with the kids," one message read. "She doesn't understand the pressure I'm under." Another, Sometimes I wonder if we got married too young. The realization that her husband was involved in an affair with someone he worked closely with shattered Laura's trust and sense of security. But instead of confronting him immediately, Laura took a deep breath and began to plan. The next morning, she called her best friend, Rachel, who worked as a private investigator. "I need to know everything," Laura said quietly, Ethan and Lily playing in the next room. "And I need to be smart about this." Rachel's voice was steady on the other end. "We'll handle this together. Don't tip him off yet." Over the next 2 weeks, Laura maintained perfect normalcy at home while Rachel gathered evidence. Photos of Kevin and Samantha entering a boutique hotel downtown. Records of gifts purchased on their joint credit card, gifts Laura had never received. A secret apartment lease signed just 3 weeks earlier. "He's planning to leave," Rachel confirmed gently, showing Laura the documentation. "The lease starts next month." That night, Laura created a separate email account and transferred half of their savings to a new bank account in her name only. She contacted a divorce attorney recommended by Rachel and quietly scanned all their financial records, property deeds, and Kevin's recent work contracts, including details of his expected annual bonus. When Kevin mentioned a weekend work retreat in Seattle, Laura nodded enthusiastically. "You deserve a break. The kids and I will be fine." Instead of confronting Kevin, she used the weekend to execute the next phase of her plan. She invited Kevin's boss, Walter Richardson, and his wife for Sunday brunch, something they did occasionally as couples. "Kevin's so sorry he's missing this," Laura said warmly as she poured coffee. "These weekend work sessions have been intense lately." Walter frowned. "Weekend work? We don't have any scheduled overtime right now." Laura feigned confusion. "Oh, the Seattle retreat? For the new development project?" Walter's face darkened. "There's no retreat, Laura." By Monday morning, Laura had spoken with Walter privately, sharing select evidence of the affair between Kevin and Samantha, who, it turned out, had been promoted by Kevin over more qualified candidates 3 months earlier. Confronting Kevin that night, Laura presented the evidence she had uncovered. Kevin, caught off guard and unable to deny the truth, admitted to the affair. He expressed deep remorse, claiming that the relationship with Samantha had been a mistake and that he had been feeling disconnected and overwhelmed by the pressures of work and family life. He insisted that the affair was not a reflection of his feelings for Laura and that he still loved her and their children deeply. "I never meant to hurt you," Kevin pleaded, his face ashen when Laura revealed she knew about the apartment lease. "It was just a fantasy that got out of control. Samantha doesn't mean anything to me." "And when were you planning to tell me and the children about your new life?" Laura asked calmly. "Before or after you moved out next month?" Kevin's eyes widened with shock. "How did you know about the lease?" "The same way I know about the $5,000 you took from our children's college fund to buy Samantha that diamond bracelet. The same way I know you've been planning to request a transfer to the Chicago office, with her." Despite Kevin's apologies and assurances, Laura was devastated by the betrayal. The foundation of trust that their marriage was built upon had been severely damaged. Seeking clarity and support, Laura confided in her close friends and sought individual therapy to process her emotions and determine the best course of action for herself and her children. What Kevin didn't know was that Laura had already contacted Richardson Construction's HR department with evidence of the inappropriate relationship between a manager and his direct report. By Wednesday, both Kevin and Samantha were placed on administrative leave pending an ethics investigation. By Friday, the company had uncovered Kevin's misappropriation of project funds to finance their rendezvous and the falsification of Samantha's performance reviews. Kevin, acknowledging the gravity of his actions, agreed to attend couples therapy with Laura in an attempt to rebuild their relationship. The sessions were challenging, forcing both partners to confront the underlying issues that had contributed to the infidelity. Laura grappled with feelings of inadequacy and betrayal, while Kevin worked to understand the impact of his actions and the breach of trust he had caused. "I'll do anything," Kevin promised during their third therapy session. "I've ended things with Samantha completely. I'll change jobs. We can move if you want, start fresh somewhere new. Laura nodded thoughtfully. I appreciate that. Trust takes time to rebuild. What Kevin didn't realize was that Laura had no intention of reconciliation. She was methodically documenting every promise he made, every admission of wrongdoing, while quietly building her new life. She enrolled in advanced graphic design courses, secured 3 major clients independent of the freelance agency she'd worked with previously, and consulted with a financial advisor to protect her long-term security. Meanwhile, Kevin's professional reputation was in tatters. Richardson Construction fired him after completing their investigation, and Samantha had already accepted a position with a competitor in Seattle. The apartment lease Kevin had secured remained empty, an additional expense he could ill afford with legal fees mounting and no income. I think we should try a trial separation, Laura suggested after their 6th therapy session. You can stay in the apartment you leased. It will give us both space to heal and consider our options. Kevin agreed eagerly, seeing it as a sign that Laura was softening. I'll come by every day to see the kids. And we can have dinner sometimes, just the 2 of us. Laura smiled and nodded. That sounds reasonable. 3 weeks into the separation, Laura invited Kevin to the house to discuss reconciliation terms. Hopeful and eager, he arrived with flowers and her favorite wine. Before we discuss moving forward, Laura said, passing him a folder, these are the terms my attorney has prepared. Inside was a divorce agreement that granted Laura primary custody of the children, ownership of their home, and a significant portion of Kevin's pension and future earnings. Attached was evidence of his financial misconduct at work, evidence that could be shared with potential employers during reference checks. This is insane, Kevin sputtered. You can't possibly expect me to agree to this. Laura's voice remained calm. Actually, I do. You see, Walter has agreed to provide a neutral reference if you sign. If not, any potential employer will learn exactly why Richardson Construction terminated you. You're blackmailing me, Kevin whispered, his face pale. I'm protecting my children and myself, Laura corrected. Something you failed to do when you decided our family wasn't enough for you. After several months of therapy and open communication, Laura made the difficult decision to separate from Kevin. She felt that, despite their efforts, the trust and intimacy that once defined their marriage could not be fully restored. Prioritizing the well-being of their children, Laura and Kevin committed to co-parenting amicably, ensuring that their personal differences did not affect their roles as parents. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly quick. Kevin, facing the devastating professional and personal consequences of his actions, signed the agreement. By the time Samantha discovered he wouldn't be joining her in Seattle after all, she had already moved on with a senior partner at her new firm. 1 year later, Laura's design business had expanded to include 3 employees who worked from a converted garage studio behind her house, the house she now owned outright after Kevin signed over his equity as part of the settlement. She dated occasionally but focused primarily on her children and career. Kevin, now working as a junior project manager at a much smaller firm in the neighboring state of Washington, maintained regular visitation with Ethan and Lily. His relationship with Laura remained strictly businesslike, schedule coordination and necessary updates about the children's lives. The experience was a profound and painful journey for Laura, but it also led to personal growth and resilience. She learned the importance of self-worth, the necessity of setting boundaries, and the strength required to move forward after betrayal. Surrounded by supportive friends and family, Laura began to rebuild her life, focusing on her career and the happiness of her children. On a crisp autumn evening, Laura received an unexpected email from Walter Richardson, offering her company a contract to redesign Richardson Construction's entire brand identity. Your work has been exceptional, the email read. And your personal integrity hasn't gone unnoticed. As Laura sat on her porch, watching Ethan and Lily play in the yard that Kevin once mowed every Saturday, she wondered if the satisfaction she felt was truly from the revenge she had meticulously executed or from the knowledge that she had survived something that once seemed insurmountable. Perhaps true victory wasn't in destroying Kevin's life but in refusing to let him destroy hers. Yet sometimes, in quiet moments, she wondered if her calculated response had changed something fundamental within her, if the coldness she had needed to navigate the betrayal had permanently altered who she was. When Ethan looked up from the yard and waved, his smile so reminiscent of Kevin's that it momentarily took her breath away, Laura waved back and pushed the thought aside. Whatever the cost, she had protected what mattered most. And maybe that was enough.